friendly fun in the entire city. They're on fire right now. They picked up a big win over the Wisconsin Herd last night. The Cleveland Charge back in action on Friday against the Long Island Nets. They are 2-1 in the second half of their G League season. So go on, head over to Public Hall. It is affordable, family fun for everyone. You can get your tickets at clevelandcharge.com. They are back in action on Friday. And with that,
Shedeur Sanders is getting high-level looks. I mean, they are giving this man exotic looks. They shifting coverage post-snap. They bringing people, dropping people. He's getting the whole kitchen sink, bro. He not getting no one-read stuff. I'm surprised by that. He ain't even fool him on that play. Can you imagine? Some of this stuff you're not going to get unless you just see it. It ain't no such thing that you get in the defense. And it's like, oh, he's just supposed to be good. Bro, some of this stuff you got to see. You got to have experience. You gotta have a database of experiences that you can pull from. Some looks you never gonna see by the second year. And by the time you get some stuff and you're throwing the receivers in the offseason and you're getting used to working with your offensive line and you're starting to understand the chemistry, now you're starting to put together a Rolodex so you can start to understand what they're doing, and now you can make them pay. But if you ain't got the Rolodex, plus you ain't got the roster, you're not gonna succeed at the highest level. I'm tired of people trying to boil down the NFL like it's easy. It's not.
Brian Hoyer just went on Cleveland Browns Daily and absolutely destroyed Kevin Stefanski for lying about Shedeur Sanders' development. And bro, when a 15-year NFL veteran who's been in that locker room calls you out on live television, that's when you know the truth is about to come out. You know what's crazy? Everyone's talking about what Brian Hoyer just said about Stefanski's quarterback management, but they're missing the bigger picture. Dylan Gabriel has literally vanished from the face of the earth since his girlfriend went rogue on TikTok about the Browns organization. I'm talking full witness protection program vibes, bro. Meanwhile, Shedeur is out here ballin', getting all the spotlight, and suddenly Dylan's on the injury report? And now Brian Hoyer, a guy who never talks trash about coaches, just went scorched earth on Stefanski's handling of the quarterback room. When you hear what Hoyer revealed about those closed-door meetings where Stefanski was supposedly developing Shedeur, man, you're going to lose your mind. Let me tell you what's really going on in Cleveland right now.
The right guys in charge of how you can get this thing turned around.
And Brian, to your point, like, if the Browns called the Bills right now and said, we'll give you 5 first-round picks for Josh Allen, the Bills would laugh at them. You could offer them 10 first-round picks, they'd turn it down. Whereas if you said, you could get any coach with 2 first-round picks if you wanted, like in theory, if the coach were willing to go.
Look, Brian Hoyer doesn't just run his mouth. This is a dude who's been a backup quarterback for over a decade, who understands the politics of an NFL locker room better than anybody. So when he goes on Cleveland Browns Daily and says Kevin wasn't being honest about Shedeur's readiness, that's not just an opinion. That's someone who saw it firsthand dropping bombs. Here's what Hoyer essentially exposed. While Stefanski was telling the media that Shedeur needed more time to develop, that he wasn't ready for NFL speed, behind closed doors, Shedeur was torching the first-team defense in practice. We're talking about completing 80% of his passes, making reads that veteran quarterbacks struggle with, and commanding the huddle like he'd been there for years. But Stefanski kept rolling with Dylan Gabriel, his hand-picked guy, the quarterback he vouched for during the draft process. And this is where the story gets really messy. Remember when Shedeur Sanders got drafted by the Browns? Third string, bro. They had him buried on the depth chart like he was some undrafted free agent fighting for a practice squad spot. And who was ahead of him? Dylan Gabriel, Kevin Stefanski's golden boy. Now here's where it gets interesting, and this connects to what Hoyer was saying. When Shedeur was the backup, when he was sitting at third string, we were getting flooded with content about him. Reporters were in his face every single day. Shedeur, how do you feel about being third string? Shedeur, what's your mindset? Shedeur, can you win the starting job? The media was all over this kid, treating him like he was the story even when he wasn't supposed to be the story. You know why? Because everyone in that building knew The players knew, the assistant coaches knew, and according to what Hoyer's implying, even Stefanski knew. Shedeur was the best quarterback on that roster from day one. But politics, ego, and commitment to a bad decision kept him on the bench. Let me paint you a picture of what was really happening in those Browns facilities. Hoyer talked about watching practice film where Shedeur would come in with the second team, working with worse receivers behind a worse offensive line and still outperform Dylan Gabriel. There was one specific practice, and Hoyer mentioned this without naming names, but we all know who he was talking about, where Shedeur threw 5 touchdown passes in team drills. 5, with the second team offense against the first team defense.
The troops in an organization that just doesn't matter who's there. It's Jay, I think you said it, like the boss is still the Haslam family. Like, how are they going to get out of the way and hire someone to let them do their job?
Yeah, that's basically what it comes down to. And to your point about Mike being alpha, and listen, I get the argument about the importance of the quarterback, but the reason why I would, if you're talking all-time great coach, all-time great quarterback, a coach has a shelf life longer than a player. Number one. But number two, it's to what Brian was talking about. Mike is the ultimate.
And what does Stefanski do after that practice? He comes out to the media and says Dylan Gabriel gives us the best chance to win. Bro, even the players were looking at each other like, what is this man smoking? But fast forward to right now, Dylan Gabriel has been radio silent for weeks. I'm not exaggerating, bro. This dude has gone completely dark. And before you say, well, he's injured, yeah, they're saying he's on the injury report, but hold on, how does a backup quarterback who's barely seeing the field suddenly get injured? What happened? Did he trip over a cooler on the sideline? Did he pull something during stretching? Nobody's explaining this injury, and that's what makes it fishy. The last time we really heard anything substantial about Dylan Gabriel was when his girlfriend decided to go on TikTok and blast the Browns organization. She basically said, and I'm paraphrasing here, but the message was clear, that the Browns were playing favorites and that her man wasn't getting a fair shot, which is wild because Dylan was literally the starter. He was the favorite. But here's the twist that nobody's talking about, and this is what I think triggered Hoyer to finally speak up. After that TikTok video went viral, there were emergency meetings in the Browns facility. Jimmy Haslam himself allegedly called Stefanski into his office, and this is where the forced benching comes into play. Think about how wild that is. We're talking about Kevin Stefanski's guy, the quarterback he vouched for, the one he believed in so much that he had him ranked ahead of Shedeur Sanders on the depth chart, and now even Stefanski won't talk about him. That's crazy, bro. Your head coach won't even defend his own guy? Won't even address the situation? Brian Hoyer basically confirmed what we all suspected, that Stefanski knew he made the wrong choice, but was too stubborn to admit it. Hoyer said, and this is almost a direct quote, sometimes coaches get so invested in being right about their evaluation that they'll tank a whole season rather than admit they were wrong. Tank a whole season. Let that sink in. A 15-year NFL veteran is essentially saying that Kevin Stefanski was willing to lose games, willing to destroy the team's chemistry, willing to waste a year of everybody's career just to avoid admitting he was wrong about Dylan Gabriel. Meanwhile, Shedeur is out here playing like he belongs on an NFL field. And you know what makes this even more interesting? We're not just seeing good quarterback play from Shedeur. We're seeing leadership. We're seeing a guy who's commanding the huddle, making veteran throws, reading defenses like he's been in this league for 5 years. The kid is special, and everybody in that building knows it now.
Look at this nonsense. Bro, dog. You like come on, if you're gonna be sabotaging, make it look a little more real. Don't make it so obvious. Don't make it so obvious. Look at this, man. And this is on 4th down. This is on 4th down. You can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious. This is what we are talking about. This is exactly the stuff that we are talking.
But here's where the Cleveland media comes in and tries to mess everything up. And I'm specifically talking about Mary Kay Cabot. Now look, I usually don't go at media members like this, but when you hear what she's been saying to cover for Stefanski, you're going to understand why so many people are frustrated with her coverage. Mary Kay went on the Ultimate Cleveland Browns show. And by the way, Brian Hoyer called this out too. And she basically tried to spin this entire situation to protect Kevin Stefanski. She's out here acting like Stefanski never had a fair shot because he didn't have a good quarterback. Wait, what? He's the one who chose Dylan Gabriel over Shedeur. He's the one who refused to give Shedeur first-team reps in training camp. Hoyer's response to this was legendary. He basically said, I'd been in quarterback rooms with Tom Brady, with Cam Newton, with some of the best to ever do it. When you have talent like Shedeur Sanders, you don't hide it on third string. You don't play games with the depth chart. You play your best players, period. And this is what kills me about Cleveland media sometimes. They get so caught up in protecting certain people that they refuse to tell the truth. They refuse to call it like it is. Even Hoyer mentioned that certain media members, he didn't name Mary Kay, but we all know, have relationships with coaches that cloud their judgment. She even said that Stefanski never had time to work with a quarterback he could win with. Are you kidding me? He drafted Dylan Gabriel over Shedeur. He's the one who refused to give Shedeur first-team reps in training camp. You can't draft a quarterback, choose him over a more talented prospect, refuse to develop that more talented prospect, and then cry about not having good quarterback play. That's not how this works. Here's what really happened, and this is where Brian Hoyer's revelations connect with everything we've been seeing. Jimmy Haslam is not a patient man. He's an owner who wants to win now. And when he sees Shedeur Sanders sitting on the bench while Dylan Gabriel is out there struggling, while Kevin Stefanski is making excuse after excuse, you better believe he's making phone calls. Hoyer basically confirmed that there were ownership-level interventions, his words, not mine, regarding the quarterback situation. He said he's never seen anything like it in his career, where an owner had to step in and essentially force a coach to play the obviously better quarterback. And then Dylan's girlfriend does her TikTok thing, and suddenly Dylan's invisible? Come on, man. You can't tell me there wasn't a conversation that happened where someone in that front office said, we need to control this situation before it gets worse. So what do? They bury Dylan on the depth chart, they put him on the injury report, and they make sure he's not available to talk to media. Meanwhile, Shedeur's getting all the reps, all the attention, all the opportunities. And guess what? He's making the most of it. That game against Pittsburgh, the one where Mary Kay said they're playing hard for Stefanski, nah, that was Shedeur showing out. That was Shedeur proving that he should have been the starter from day one. Let me tell you about that Pittsburgh game specifically, because Brian Hoyer broke this down beautifully. The Steelers have one of the best defenses in the NFL. TJ Watt, Minka Fitzpatrick, Cameron Hayward, these are legitimate superstars on that side of the ball. And Shedeur went into that hostile environment and played with zero fear. He was throwing dimes in tight windows. He was extending plays with his legs. He was doing everything you want your franchise quarterback to do. Hoyer said watching that game film was like watching a masterclass. He specifically mentioned a 3rd and long where Shedeur stood in the pocket with Watt bearing down on him, kept his eyes downfield, and delivered a perfect struck for a first down. That's not rookie stuff. That's franchise quarterback stuff. But here's where I'm going to defend Dylan Gabriel for a second, because even Hoyer acknowledged this. Was Dylan Gabriel really given a fair shot, or was he set up to fail by a coaching staff that wasn't committed to developing him properly?
Taj, the fix is in, people. Come on, man. Look at this. Look at this nonsense, man. Look at this dude right here. Look, they circled him. They circled him. Look at him. Just look at him.
Right here, it's going to be a...
All right. Come on, you in position. Are you serious, dog? You serious? You serious? Come on, man.
It's the outside arm, pushes him.
Come on, man. You can't be serious, man. Y'all can't be.
See, this is the thing that frustrates me about the NFL. They draft these young quarterbacks, they throw them into impossible situations, and then when they struggle, everybody acts shocked. Dylan Gabriel is a talented kid. He showed it in college. But when you're playing behind an offensive line that can't protect you, when you don't have weapons that can get separation, when your coaching staff is already looking over their shoulder at another quarterback on the roster, how are you supposed to succeed? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Dylan Gabriel is better than Shedeur Sanders. That would be crazy. Shedeur is clearly the more talented quarterback, the more NFL-ready prospect. But the way the Browns handled this whole situation was messy from top to bottom. Brian Hoyer's final comments were the most damning, though. He said, "In all my years in the NFL, I've never seen a coach actively work against his own team's success to protect his ego, but that's exactly what happened in Cleveland this year." Actively work against his own team's success. A 15-year veteran, a guy who's been in more locker rooms than most, is saying that Kevin Stefanski sabotaged his own team rather than admit he was wrong about the quarterback position. And look, I know Shedeur's got his haters, people who say he's only here because of his dad, people who think he's all hype, but when you've got Brian Hoyer, a guy with no connection to Deion Sanders, no reason to pump up Shedeur, saying this kid is special, that means something. The truth is, Shedeur Sanders has been proving people wrong his entire life. When the Browns drafted him third string, it was disrespectful, but he didn't complain, he just worked. And now, he's got the starting job, the respect of his teammates, and even former players like Hoyer backing him up publicly. What happens next? Stefanski's job is hanging by a thread. Dylan Gabriel is essentially done in Cleveland, and Shedeur Sanders? He's just getting started. This is his team now, and everybody knows it. The Browns finally have their franchise quarterback. They just almost screwed it up because of one coach's ego. Thank God for Brian Hoyer having the courage to call it out. Look, at the end of the day, the truth always comes out. Brian Hoyer just accelerated that process by exposing what really went down in Cleveland. Shedeur Sanders is him, and even the haters are starting to see it. If you're riding with Shedeur like I am, smash that subscribe button, and let's watch this young king take over the league. The best is yet to come. Believe that.